Namaste. How is everyone? Today I'd like to share with you about the laws of karma, how karma works, and its implications it has on us. I'm going to take these teachings and share them with you from a great classic called the Bhagavad Gita. This is Bhagavad Gita as it is, and I'm differentiating Bhagavad Gita as it is compared to Bhagavad Gita as it's not. Bhagavad Gita is a very ancient text from India. It was written about 5,000 years ago when Lord Sri Krishna was on earth and a great battle was about to ensue. This is a picture of the battlefield with the two armies, and in the middle there's a chariot, and on the chariot is Lord Sri Krishna and his dear friend Arjuna. Now Arjuna was a great warrior, and his participation in this battle was crucial for the success of the army that he was fighting with. But when he went to see who was in the army on the opposing side, his heart softened and melted, and he said to his friend Krishna, who was his chariot driver, "Krishna, I will not fight in this battle." And this is when Lord Sri Krishna spoke these 700 verses, Sanskrit verses, to Arjuna to give him courage. And not only to give him courage, but to awaken him to his true eternal identity. So this Bhagavad Gita is considered a very authoritative text in ancient India of yogic philosophy. And yogic philosophy covers a whole range of subject matters to bring a person to self-realization. For the term yoga derives from the word yoke, and yoke means to bring together. When you have two oxen, to use them to plough the field, they put a yoke over their necks, the big piece of wood that goes over the necks, and it brings them together and unites them as one. And this is the goal of yoga, to unite the individual soul with the supreme soul. And that is yoga. So this is a great authoritative text, yogic text, to bring us to that point of unification, the microcosm with the macrocosm. There are many important subject matters in Bhagavad Gita to help us come to this stage of self-realization, on this journey of self-discovery. And karma is one aspect. However, it's a very important aspect. They all are, but karma is very important because we're all experiencing the implications of our actions right now. We're all experiencing that. Some people are enjoying, some people are suffering, and it's all because of our karma. Now, there's many other important subject matters in Bhagavad Gita, such as the three modes of material nature: Sattva-gun, Rajagun and Tamagun, and then how to transcend them, which is the goal of yoga, is to transcend the material nature. And in respect to the gunas, that would be called Shuddha Sattva. So that's another subject which I shall cover on another day. Then the subject of personalism and impersonalism. What's the differences between the two, and how they relate to one another. This is also an important subject matter. The nature of our being, which is very nicely described in Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, text 4 and text 5, beginning with Bhumir apo nolo vaya karmano buddhi evacha. That's another subject matter that I shall cover. And there's a few others as well which are very crucial to bring us to a full understanding of reality. And it's a bit like they're like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. If we understand one without understanding the other, we only have certain pieces. We don't get the full picture. So today we can get a better understanding of karma and how it works, but without really understanding about the three modes of material nature, the aspects of our being, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, the concept of personalism and impersonalism, and how it relates to us. If we don't fully understand these different subject matters, then we will never get the full picture. We'll only have a partial understanding of truth. So that's why I'm going to explain each subject matter, very important ones, from the Bhagavad Gita on different days, and by listening to all the explanations, then one can get a fuller understanding of this yogic truth. I called it the Bhagavad Gita as it is because there are many commentaries on Bhagavad Gita, but they're not all authoritative. The Bhagavad Gita was 700 Sanskrit texts, and that is there, but who is commentating on these texts? Because these texts are known as sutras, and a sutra is a condensed form of knowledge. So that the commentary of each sutra, each text, is an expansion of that knowledge. But the person who's going to expand on that knowledge needs to be in alignment with the sutra. And not everyone who has commentated on Bhagavad Gita is, because anyone could get Bhagavad Gita and sit at home and write their own speculative views on what the verses mean. And that's why this Bhagavad Gita is called Bhagavad Gita as it is. And the author, his name is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Now Swami Prabhupada, he did wonderful things when he was on earth. 1896 to 1977, and he did wonderful things. Some people would even call it miraculous, some of the feats he achieved in the name of Krishna and as a pure devotee of Krishna. Now remember, the speaker of Bhagavad Gita was Sri Krishna. So the best person to represent him is his pure devotee. And that's why it's considered the most authoritative text and commentary on Bhagavad Gita. So how does karma work? Well, we're all here in these bodies, and that is due to our karma. In the Padma Purana, a very beautiful ancient text from India, it's explained that there are 8,400,000 species of life, and that we, the spirit soul, is transmigrating through these species, birth after birth, life after life, according to our karma. And now we have found ourselves in this human form of life. We could be in any form of life. We could be in a dog's body, a cat's body, an ant's body, an elephant's body, a fish body, a bird body. So many bodies, and they have a soul in the body, and the soul occupies that body for a short amount of time, and then at the time of death, or when the soul leaves the body, then enters into another body according to its karma. Now the human form of life is considered a midway point. It's said in all the animal species, they don't accrue karma. So when we, spirit soul, is in an animal's body, we don't accrue karma. An animal just acts according to its nature, and when it leaves that body, it gets its next body. And that continues until it reaches the body of a monkey, a cow, a lion, and then after that, it will come into the human form of life. So the human form is the middle platform, because above the human form are the demigods, beings in the higher planetary systems. And there's even demigods walking among us. Los Angeles is known as the city of angels. So there's even demigods amongst us, all over the world, but especially in the higher planetary systems. But even the demigods in the higher planetary systems, they're not affected by their karma. They're just achieving the good results of their previous activities, and now they're enjoying in the heavenly realms. But when their good karma is extinguished, then again they shall return to the earthly realm, into the human form of life. So this human form of life is a very precious gift. It's a very precious gift we have. But we may not necessarily realise that, because we're not seeing the bigger picture. But it's very precious, and we are very implicated by our karma. And karma means activities. So we're very implicated by activities. And it's our activities that has brought us to where we are, into this human form of life. And not only into this human form of life, but into the body we occupy, the specific body we occupy, the family we're born into, the part of the world we were born into, the wealth we were born into or not. This is all our karma. And we will enjoy or suffer accordingly. We have our lot. And when we can accept that, then we can really make progress. When we don't resist against our karma, we can really make progress. So according to what we do today, that will determine our tomorrow. So there's good karma and there's bad karma. But according to Bhagavad Gita, the goal is not good karma. Yes, good karma, you'll be helping people and you'll accrue good karma, and that could take you to the heavenly realm and also bring you happiness in this life. But the goal is not good karma, because the Bhagavad Gita explains that even good karma keeps you bound in this material world. And the Bhagavad Gita is a transcendental literature. And we are transcendental beings. So the goal of Bhagavad Gita is to bring us back to our transcendental nature, which transcends the material nature altogether, even while we're in the material nature. Just like the lotus flower, whose roots and stems come from the muddy water, but it rises above the water and it flowers very beautifully, and it doesn't touch the muddy water. So that's the nature of our spirit soul. We're in this material world, but we have an opportunity to transcend this material nature. And that's the goal of this yogic practice. To come to that place of being in the world, but not of the world. And a beautiful analogy I like to give to understand the complexities of this material nature, because the Bhagavad Gita explains, for one to understand their spiritual nature, they have to understand the material nature. We can never fully understand the spiritual nature without understanding material nature and how material nature functions. Because to become free from the complexities of material nature, it's important to know how it functions. And the analogy I would like to share, which I always find slightly humorous, but also enlivening to see in this perspective, is seeing this material nature like a board game. I often think like this, like a board game. If you had a board game, one popular board game when I was a child was Monopoly. But you can, any board game, and some board games can be quite complex and intricate. They're not all just you throw a dice, you move 6 spaces because you've got a number 6 and it's the first one to get to the end. That's a very simple board game. And if life was that simple, it would probably be much easier for the mass of the people. But life is not that simple. It's much more complex. So on the analogy of the board game, it's a much more complex board game. And some board games do get very complex, and you really have to learn the rules of the game so you know how to play, and that way you have more of a chance of succeeding in the board game, being a winner. And that's what we're all about, being winners, victorious in this struggle for existence. Because that's how it is for many people. It's a struggle. Life is a struggle for many people. And it's a struggle just to get out of bed in the morning. It's a struggle for existence. Well, learning these rules of life can help us become victorious in this struggle. So, if I'm playing Monopoly and I don't know the rules, I'm just throwing the dice, going around the board, not really knowing what to do and what I'm supposed to do. Well, the other people playing the game who knows what to do, they are buying up the properties, they're putting houses on the properties, hotels. I'm landing on these houses and hotels and giving lots of my money away to them, and they're becoming very successful while I'm losing all my money and ending up going to jail without passing go. Because I don't know the rules of the game. So life is like that. There's rules of the game. And if we don't know the rules of the game, then we're going to always fall prey. So Bhagavad Gita is an ancient spiritual science to teach us the rules of the game. And even though it's a spiritual science, it explains very nicely how this material nature works. And it does that because by explaining very nicely how it works, it enables us to overcome its traps. There's many traps in this game of life. And the Bhagavad Gita teaches us very nicely how to overcome these traps and reach our spiritual nature. So these traps can also be stepping stones to our victory, like the material modes of nature, which I'll cover another time. The lower modes can hold us down, but as we reach the higher modes, they can be stepping stones towards liberation. But now, according to Bhagavad Gita, liberation is not the goal of life. The goal of life, for the impersonalist, liberation is the goal of life. But for the personalist, it's to engage in a loving devotional service to the Supreme. And what does the Supreme, however your concept of the Supreme is, what does the Supreme ask of us? The Supreme says something very beautiful. The Supreme says, "Show your love to me by the way you love one another." Isn't that beautiful? And isn't that what you'd almost expect the Supreme to say? Show your love for me by the way you show your love for one another. That's what he, she wants, us to love one another. And it's by us engaging in this selfless service of love that we become free from the implications of our karma. Now, I know for many of us right now, we're on lockdown due to this so-called coronavirus. And there's many things going on in the world which is creating a lot of uncertainty for many people. What is really going on? Many of us are questioning more than we ever have. What is really going on? Is there such thing as democracy? Do we really have freedom of speech? Or is there a censorship? And is that censorship becoming more obvious? In countries like China, where communism rules the day, censorship is very blatant. In North Korea, censorship is very blatant. However, in this so-called democratic society, we are supposed to have freedom of speech. Yet we're seeing censorship entering into our lives more and more. There was even a post I recently saw from the Wiltshire Police in England saying that, "Are you being harassed by conspiracy theories? If so, contact us and let us know who these conspiracy theorists are." Just see other implications of this lockdown and where it could potentially lead. And what is going on? Some people say Wuhan, where the coronavirus outbreak begun, was the first area to be fully engulfed in 5G technology, and they say that the people, it created a toxic outlet from the people because the 5G was too strong, and this toxicity manifested itself as coronavirus. Some people say coronavirus was established in laboratories by the Chinese communists to hold down their people who were starting to revolt against such an oppressive system. Some people say coronavirus doesn't even exist. There's no specific coronavirus. And that when tests are done, the test isn't looking for one specific virus, but it's looking for many different symptoms related to the virus. And that's why you often hear this person died of symptoms related to coronavirus. They don't always say they died of coronavirus or COVID-19. They died of symptoms related to COVID-19. And there's many other potentially credible theories available that we can research. So what is really going on? And then there's other theories that this is all to lock people down. Yes, to bring out the 5G, which is happening now, but also to bring in a totalitarian state, to lock us down, and then to give the leaders of the world the opportunity to bring in more stricter security measures globally for our own protection, for our own safety. So there's many theories, and they're all very credible. Understanding that there's a global elite who wants to control the world. So in that respect, it's very understandable that it's a global problem. But this all brings us back to karma, because the Bhagavad Gita gives the outline of how material nature works. But there's many details that are coming into the game at different points in time. And it's very important for us to have our faculties about us as much as we can to be successful in this game called life. So, different things which have come in for us to be aware of, which changes the rules slightly. Like, say, for example, before the 1950s, there was no fluoride in the water, in the tap water. Now, the government leaders, who we know are demons, you know, the people at the very top of the pyramid, it's not unknown that they are of a demoniac mentality, which means they want to control the masses, and they're power hungry, they're full of greed, and their intention isn't to assist individuals on their spiritual life, but it's a complete opposite. It's to bind people in a mental and physical slavery. So it's important to understand this, because when these leaders say, so-called leaders, that they're putting the fluoride in the water because it's very good for our teeth, and they care about our teeth so much that they've decided they want to spend all this money and resources on all this fluoride and put it in our water just for our teeth, because that's how much they care about us. It's important to be wise to what's really going on without becoming paranoid, but just see things for what they are. That's all that is asked. Just see things from the neutral mind, from the neutral place, the objective self. Fluoride calcifies the pineal gland. Fluoride numbs down the brain. And these leaders want to have people who are numbed. So it's very important for us to see that we need to have a sharp intellect to understand reality and to become victorious in this struggle. So that was a little game changer that came in there in the 1950s. So many of us were born into the fluoride in the water era. It was already implemented before we were born. So we wake up, we see, we change our habits. Maybe as a child we didn't know, so we were drinking tap water, we didn't know any difference. But now we know different, then it's for us to change. And that's a responsibility we have, because in the human form of life we're implicated by our karma. Now, if a person goes to court because they've committed an act which was against the law, and they say to the judge, "Your Honour, I didn't know that was against the law," still they are accountable for their actions. Likewise, if a child goes to the fire and puts its hand in the fire, not knowing that the fire will burn it, a very small child, the fire will still burn that child. The fire doesn't think, well, this very small child doesn't know that I burn, so I won't burn it. No, the fire will still burn, and the child will learn the hard way. So we can learn the hard way, or we can learn the easy way. Now, the teachings of Bhagavad Gita are there to assist us to learn the easy way. Because many of us get caught up in repetitive cycles that don't serve us. And we're not learning, so we repeat the mistake again and again, and we suffer the consequences of that. Because we're not learning. We're having the action, receiving the reaction, but we don't change our way. And why is that? Because often we're not able to change our way. Every individual is a great soul, and we all have our part to play in the unification and the global liberation of the human race. Don't think that your part is not important. Your part is extremely important, just as important as the next person. Now, there are countless individuals, who are in council flats and very small properties, maybe without a garden, on the 12th floor, and they're suffering. And maybe at one time in their life they had lots of youthful energy and vigour, and they saw through the system. They saw that the system was corrupt, and they wanted a better life. Maybe living together in community, living off the land with others in love and harmony and peace and unity, growing their food, living according to spiritual principles. They had great ideals, but the system is so strong and structured in such a way that they were never able to really break out. But their spirit was so alive for that, but they never achieved that. And so what happened to these people? What have happened to these people? They found themselves becoming depressed. They found themselves starting to lack energy and luster and vitality for life. They start to become apathetic, even bitter. And because of that, they start to use crutches different crutches to assist them to get through life because they never really achieved what they were hoping to achieve. So they start to feel like they failed in life, that life has failed them. And this is a very important point. For us to become victorious in the struggle, we have to reach that point of not blaming anything external for our situation. Yes, the government is making it very hard, and that's another topic called the yugas. Sattva Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga and Kali Yuga, and the symptoms of each yuga or age. A yuga is an age. And right now we're in Kali Yuga, which is it's considered the Iron Age. You had the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, and now we have the Iron Age. But within this Iron Age there's a Golden Age happening right now, and we can be part of that Golden Age. But the epitome of the Iron Age are these oligarchical leaders, and they are creating so much tribulation for the masses of the people. So much tribulation. They're making it very difficult for us to progress nicely in our inner journey of self-discovery and self-realization, which, according to Bhagavad Gita, is what life is for. This is the goal of life. What is life for? Is life just for eating and sleeping, having sex and defending what you have? Or is there something higher to life? Is life just for working and paying the bills and watching television and numbing out? Or is there something higher to life? Well, the Gita explains there's something much higher to life. And this is what the goal of life is actually for. To come onto that path, that journey of self-discovery. So there are some very tyrannical leaders, and they're making life very difficult for the masses by imposing us with very heavy taxes, and rent is very high, and the wages we earn are disproportionate to what we have to pay out. So we're always on the breadline. However, that's just a fact and a reality, but it doesn't have to stop us from becoming self-realized in this time, which is what the goal of life is. And we can do that whilst in our current situation. No matter who you are or where you are, you can become self-realized. You can become very happy, very joyful, very blissful, even ecstatic, whilst in your current situation, because it's an internal process, and you're going to change what's happening inside to all the different aspects of your being. Your mind, the negative mind, the depressed mind, the emotions, the sadness, the loss, the grief. All these can be transformed, and we can reach our beautiful spiritual essence of our being, because the spiritual essence, the essence of our being is pure spirit. And pure spirit is not affected by this material nature. Pure spirit is always joyful. It's always peaceful. So when we can connect to that spirit deep in ourselves, then we can connect to the peace and the joy which we always hanker for, because that's our constitutional position and that's our eternal right. So many people are in their council flats and they're suffering terribly. And they're taking so many crutches, smoking cigarettes. So many drugs are available. Cigarettes, marijuana, alcohol, antidepressants, other pharmaceutical drugs, as well as many Class A drugs like cocaine and heroin and ecstasy and LSD, etc. So there's a whole range of drugs, intoxicants, to help us cope with our situation, because we don't want to face it in our, what you might call, normal self. So we want to change our consciousness through these substances to help us cope. We might call it gives us happiness. But if we look deeper, it could quite probably be that it helps give us relief from our suffering more than it gives us happiness. Then you have sex, excessive sexual fantasies, excessive masturbation, excessive or watching pornography. These are other crutches to help relieve us from our current situation, which we feel helpless in. Then there's food. Excessive indulgence in food, especially food which is unhealthy. Then there's the television. Excessive watching of television, Netflix, etc. Just to escape. Because we feel like there's nothing we can do. What can we do anyway? So let me just surrender to what is. But this is the lethargy and the apathy which Maya, or the illusory energy which is represented by these leaders, want us to be. But this is our challenge, this is our test, to rise above that, to know that we are we're complete in ourselves. We have no need for these other things. There's many positive things in life which we can aspire to, which nourish us on the spiritual level and physically. When we eat healthy food, we feel good. It feeds us, and this is very important. We're not our bodies, but the body is the vehicle to assist us through this life. So, in summary, we are all responsible for our karma. And let me add a few points now, some key points about karma in a very concise way. Now this is not necessarily my opinion, this is the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, and I'm sharing these teachings with you, and I have imbibed a lot of these teachings, and I live by a lot of these teachings, but at the same time they're not my teachings. I'm just passing on the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, and it goes like this. In this material world, you have heavenly planets, or higher realms, you have lower realms, and you have the middle realm. And Lord of the Rings, there's a lot of connection with certain movies. Now, in this middle realm, earthly realm, this is where we are right now, in the human form of life. And it's said that when we perform good karma in this life, if we do good deeds, because it's explained that where we are now in this life was because of the actions from our previous life. This is how it works. From our previous life, that determines where we are in this life. So there's not much we can do about that. We can't change the body we were given. We can't change the family we were born into. We can't change the part of the world we were born, whether we were born into richness or poverty. That's our karma. There's some changes we can do within that karma, like if we had an unhealthy body, our body was causing us suffering, it was naturally large or skinny, or we can do some exercise to get fitter, we can eat more healthy so we can do something for our body. If we were born in poverty, we can maybe become entrepreneurial and make some money and change our karma. If we were born in into a family which was not conducive to our happiness, we can move away from our family. Or if we're from a part of the world where we don't want to live, where we were born, we can move to another part of the world. So there's changes we can make to assist us in our journey. But that's an individual thing. But where we're born and our general karma, that's predetermined from our activities from our last life. And now what we do in this life will determine the body we get in our next life, according to Bhagavad Gita. It will determine the body we get in our next life. Now, a beautiful example is if you're going to go on holiday and someone asks you where you're going to go, but you don't know the destinations available to you. In England, we have some places called Scunthorpe, Bognor Regis, and people used to go on there on holidays back in like the 1960s and 1970s. You had these holiday camps called Butlins holiday camps. But nowadays, going to Bognor Regis or Scunthorpe or Blackpool, they're not considered the most elaborate of destinations where you could be going to the Caribbean or the Bahamas or Mauritius or the Swiss Alps, or so many beautiful places. So likewise, what we do in this life will determine our next life. But if we only know that Scunthorpe and Bognor Regis are available to us, we're limiting our choices. And according to our actions, it will determine our destination. So if we know all the destinations available to us, then we know, well, if I act like this, that will be my destination. If I behave and act like this, that will be my destination. So we can almost now, with this knowledge, choose our destination for our next life according to the actions that we perform in this life. Now there's material actions and there's spiritual actions, and they'll bring different results. And that's where we're heading now. We're going to transition from material to spiritual and open up to a whole new realm of reality. So on the material platform, if we perform good activities in this life, we accrue good karma. So if we help people, etc. We all know what good activities are because our heart knows what good activities are. Our conscience lets us know what good activities are, and similarly, they let us know what's not. So we perform good actions. In our next life, what will our destination be? Well, it can be a number of things. One, it could be taking birth on a higher planetary system, because according to the Vedic scripts, there's life on every planet. Every planet has life. So it's completely predates modern science, and doesn't have any interest in modern science. This predates modern science, and it's a beautiful philosophy. And it says that there's life on all planets, and there's higher planetary systems where life is much nicer. There's practically no sickness, no disease. Even old age is not so noticeable, and death is just a fading out after many thousands of years of living a very beautiful life. And everyone is healthy, everyone is radiant, beautifully looking, and everything up there is very beautiful. It says there's rivers of flowing mango nectar. And at the source of the flowing mango nectar river are huge trees. And on these trees, there's mangoes the size of elephants. The size of elephants, mangoes, and they're super ripe and sweet and juicy. And they fall off the tree, and when they hit the ground, all this beautiful mango nectar bursts out of them, and it creates this river of mango nectar. So wherever you are down that river, you're just getting this flowing river of beautiful mango nectar. But the source of the river comes from these huge mangoes the size of elephants that drop and burst open, and that's how the mango river is established. So such is the beauty of the heavenly realms. So one can engage in good activities, get good karma, go to the heavenly planet, or they could take birth again in the material world, but they could take birth in a rich family, because anybody who's born in a rich family, we are to understand, even if they're acting irresponsibly with their riches, we are to understand this is still their good karma. They've done something in a previous life to get that birth in this life. It's not a coincidence, it's not an accident. And that's why when we understand this, we accept our situation, because we know this is our karma. But we can change our karma. We don't have to succumb to our karma and become apathetic and depressed. We can change our karma and become victorious. So another one is the heavenly planets. Another result of your good karma for this life is that you take birth in a rich family. You take birth, you have beautiful looks. You may be even born in aristocracy. You have a good education. All these opportunities are there. You're born into it, as they say, with a silver spoon in your mouth. This is the result of your good karma. But we'll get back to how that's not the goal, and how it doesn't necessarily serve you. We'll get back to that. Then you have the opposite, you have the bad karma. If you perform actions in this world which create suffering to others, and you accrue your bad karma, then the destination may be that you go, according to Bhagavad Gita, that instead of going to the heavenly planets, which are like the planets of the demigods and having a demigod body, you'll slip down into a animal body and have to come through the chain of the cycle of repeated birth and death through the animal body to get back to the human body again. But while you're in those animal bodies, there's a lot of suffering in the animal body. Have you ever seen a mouse getting caught by a cat? A mouse is a very beautiful creature, but when it gets caught by a cat, it's not happy. When a bird is getting caught by a cat, it's not happy. Many animals get eaten alive. It's not a nice experience, because they feel just like we feel. So if we were to get eaten alive, could you imagine how horrific that would be? Well, animals experience that regularly. I was thinking just the other day about the spider, how an insect can get caught in the spider's web and it can't get free, and then they hear the spider coming. Can you imagine how terrifying that would be? And then the spider paralyzes you, but you still have all your sense of feelings and you can feel everything while it's either eating you alive and you can't move, or it's wrapping you up in its spider's web to save you for later and you're alive, paralysed. Can you imagine? And as I was thinking that, literally I walked down the corridor and next to a plant, I saw a wasp on this plant earlier, and I saw it again, and a spider had it and was wrapping it. And that was just as I thought that yesterday. It was very interesting. So there's a lot of suffering in the animal form of life. So that could be one destination, or another destination is that we take birth in a lower planetary system. Now, in the lower planetary systems, there's a lot more suffering, because it's said in this earth realm, the suffering can often be coped with, and the happiness is often not so overwhelmingly happy. So there's some happiness, some distress, but it's the middle realm. It's not, it can. Some people have one of more, one of the other, but generally we can cope with it, and we can get on with the true goal of life, which is what I'm coming to now, which is our spiritual life and the spiritual destination of the spiritual yogi. And it's a different destination of all this. And this is where the Bhagavad Gita is really taking us. It's taking us out of the realms of karma altogether, and it's called akarma. The Sanskrit language is very beautiful. Okay, I've been talking for nearly 1 hour now, so I'm going to seal it up with this. That they don't have a word often for the opposite, that we will have material, spiritual, good, bad, permanent, temporary. They have a word and they'll just put an "a" on front, and that means it's the opposite. So karma, akarma. Sat, eternal. Asat, temporary. They don't need a second word, they just put an "a" on the front, and it gives the opposite meaning. So in that way it's a very simple language, but even though it's also very complex. So akarma means, and this is what the Bhagavad Gita explains, the goal is not good karma, because good karma, you're still bound within this material universe of repeated birth and death. So you go to the heavenly planet, you enjoy for 1,000 years, but then you come back into your physical body in the earthly realm again to carry on. So you're still caught up in this cycle of samsara, repeated birth and death. Sometimes on the earthly realm, sometimes the heavenly realm, sometimes the lower planetary systems, sometimes in the human form of life, sometimes the demigod, sometimes the animal body, but it's samsara. Now, Bhagavad Gita is helping us realize there's something beyond samsara, beyond karma, and beyond this material universe. And it's explained that this material universe, there's a covering around this material universe, which is made of the elements: earth, water, fire, air, space. Thousands of miles of each, thousands of miles of earth, thousands of miles of water, and this is the covering of this material universe, and this is what we're in. And it's very dark in here, and that's why we have a sun. It's like we're inside an egg, and we're inside the egg, and it's very dark, so that a sun is inside that egg so we can see. Without the sun, we'll just be in darkness. But actually, it's explained that real life is outside the egg. Outside the egg is where real life is, but we're inside the egg. And inside that egg, you have the higher systems, the lower systems, the earthly realm, but it's all inside this egg, which is dark and has need of a sun. Now, outside of this egg, outside of the material covering of this universe, it's explained there's a spiritual universe. This exists, a spiritual universe. Not everyone wants to go there, but that's okay. But it's good to know that it exists, and for those who do want to go there, it's a destination option. And the goal isn't necessary to go here either, and that's another subject matter. But this is available, and it's self-illuminating. This spiritual universe is self-illuminating. There's no need of a sun. It illuminates itself. And in this spiritual universe, there's spiritual planets. And people have spiritual bodies. And it's said that 75% of all living entities are in this spiritual universe and on these spiritual planets, and 25% are in the material world. And the universe we are in is just one universe of countless universes. And in each universe, there's countless planets. And on every planet, there's life. So that's a different perspective than what we'll get from modern science. It's a very beautiful understanding of life. Now, in the spiritual world, there's no birth and death. There's no birth and death. And everyone has a youthful body that's full of vigor and life. And the joy and the ecstasy is ever increasing. Ever increasing. There's no limit. It's an unlimited realm. And it's a very wonderful place. And there's no demons there. There's no people with demoniac mentality, because it takes a certain qualification to reach this planet. It's easy to get a little bit of money together and to go to Bognor Regis. Many people can do that. But it's much harder to get tens of thousands of pounds together and go to a 5-star luxury resort in Mauritius or somewhere. This is much harder. So much less people can go there. And it takes a lot more work for most of us to be able to do that. So likewise, to reach the spiritual world is not so easy, because we have to overcome all the snares of the material world, all the traps. And I mentioned the outline that Bhagavad Gita explains, but then there's all the intricacies within that, everything that's changing, like the fluoride in the water, the chemicals on the food, the heavy tax, all these other things that are thrown in to make it even more difficult. But all this can and needs to be overcome where one becomes qualified to enter into that spiritual realm, if that's where they want to go, and enjoy eternally. But some individuals who reach that place of self-realization, they choose that is not where they want to go. They choose what they want to do is to come back here to the earthly realm, life after life, and help others become liberated and become free. These are very advanced beings, and when we see a very advanced being on planet Earth like that, we can understand that they have come in the liberated stage. Beings like Lord Jesus Christ, or Jesus Christ, Yeshua. And it said even A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, they said that he came in as a liberated being. And what that means was that he's not bound by the material world and has to free himself from the material shackles, the shackles of the mind, and become awakened from a conditioned state. Because we've been born into mental slavery. That's important to realize. We've been born into mental slavery. Our parents were born into mental slavery. We've been conditioned from birth to think a certain way, to behave a certain way, to accept this as right and that as wrong, to have prejudice. We've been born and grew up through an education system which was designed to keep us in ignorance, was designed to tell us what to think, but not how to think. It was designed for the poor and middle class to think that you have to work hard for money. Yet the rich people are being taught you make money work hard for you. It's a complete opposite, to keep the masses in slavery. And it goes on and on. We were born in this conditioning. So for us, the masses of the people, we need to deprogram ourselves. It's important to deprogram ourselves, recondition ourselves, gather knowledge from the ancients, because these are the people who have the knowledge, the ancients, our ancestors, to tap into ancestral knowledge, to set ourselves free. There's so much available to us right now to help set us free from mental slavery. And this is a great time to do it. Many people are on lockdown now, and what are you doing on your lockdown? Are you using this time to set you free? This is a time of potential great transformation, and every individual has their part to play, and we can create a new world. Right now, we've come into the golden age. We're in the golden age. This is the golden age in its beginning stages, and this is a time for transformation right now. This is time for every individual to realize their worth and to stand up for their right and to rise above what is holding them back, to really be with that. Really be with that. Don't let the system get you down. You can rise above it, and there's many tools to assist us. We can lead a horse to water, but we can't make the horse drink the water. So we are responsible for ourselves. We have to take action. No one can do it for us. We can do it for ourselves, though. And we have the same potency in every person. We all have it. If you see someone who seems very potent, who has a lot of Shakti, energy, positive vitality, who seems very happy and positive, we also have that. We have that as well. Don't think it's just another person. Don't give your power away to another. You have the power, and build that power within yourself. It's your power, it's your right, and you can set yourself free. And by doing that, you'll help set others free around you. Don't think that your part is insignificant. It's very significant. Everyone has a significant part to play. The simple person on the 12th floor of a council flat is very important in this global spiritual revolution. Extremely important. So don't think you have no worth. Your worth is incredible. You have incredible worth. Know that. Keep yourself inspired. Do what you have to do to create change within yourself. Reach out to those who you feel can help you. Connect with those that make you feel good. Connect with things that assist you. Gather knowledge. Knowledge is light. Ignorance is darkness. So through the knowledge, we can reach the light. Use tools to help you. Use the yoga, use the breath work, the pranayama, connect with your breath, feed yourself with the oxygen, calm the mind. Whatever it is that's going on with you, use natural methods to help yourself, whether it's stress, anxiety, depression, feelings of helplessness, addiction, whatever it is that's going on in your life, or a combination of all these, trauma, suffering, childhood trauma that you've carried into your adulthood. It doesn't matter, whatever it is, they can all be healed and you can become a whole person. And this is what life is for. It's not just for working hard to pay your bills or to not work at all and be unemployed and be depressed and smoke marijuana and watch Netflix or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. That's not what life is about. That's coming away from life. Life is about facing ourselves, facing our inner demons, facing our shadows, shining the light on our shadows, shining the light on what's really going on inside us. It's all about inside. It's not about outside. It never has been about outside. It's not about the governments of the world and what they're doing, even though it's very good to be informed and to act accordingly. It's not about that. It's about you. It's about your internal journey. It's about clearing out everything that doesn't serve you. So whenever you find yourself, so especially when you're a bit older, you start to become aware of your repetitive patterns that hold you back. And you think, oh, here's that pattern again. It could be over a cycle, over a week, a month, 3 months, a year, a 3-year cycle. But here it is again, I'm in this cycle. I'm not breaking out of it. I'm caught up in this wheel that keeps going around and around, and I'm not actually getting anywhere. I get somewhere, then I get caught back up, and I'm not really breaking through and becoming free. And I have all these crutches. I eat excess junk food. I take these drugs, pharmaceutical or otherwise. I watch pornography. I watch manga out on Netflix. I sleep a lot. I just try and sleep it away. Whatever it is we do, there's a reason why we're doing that. And that's why the journey of self-discovery, that's why meditation is very beneficial. Because in meditation, we sit and we observe and we don't react. And that's why meditation can help free us from all these problems. It's a very powerful tool to incorporate into our daily life. Because often we do things unconsciously. There's a feeling that arises that's uncomfortable. And instead of sitting with that feeling, we reach out for something. Oh, I'm just going to skin up. Oh, I'm just going to have a cigarette. Oh, I'm just going to go and open the fridge. And, I'm going to do something. It's explained that we're human beings. We're not human doings. But we always like to do instead of be. And this is very important, even if we can just be for 20 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes, whatever we can do. That will come into our daily life, and we'll start coming back to that point of being just because we do it as a practice. And when we do it as a practice, we will sit there and we will just observe what is rising up now. What is the mind thinking? How am I feeling? We could even potentially trace it back to where it's come from. Well, that came from somewhere, from something that happened in my childhood, and I couldn't process it properly, and now I've got into this habit. So we can even trace it back. But whether we trace it back or not, it doesn't matter. We can clear all this out, and there's many tools. Somatic therapy is very powerful, and it's becoming much more popular now as a very powerful tool to help people really free themselves from what's going on inside them, through really being in their body and really feeling what's going on and not running away from it, just being with it. And this is the path of the yogi or the yogini, and it's the path of being with themselves and sitting with themselves and understanding themselves and coming from the place as a conscious observer. And that's the spirit soul, the conscious observer. We watch our mind, we observe our mind, but we're not the mind. We just observe its thoughts. We watch the emotions, we listen to the emotions, but we don't react to the emotions, we just observe them, because we're not the emotions, we're the conscious observer, we're the spirit soul. And by coming from that place, we can observe everything and we can start to heal ourselves. And we can heal ourselves through different tools. There's many tools available. For me, I use yoga in many aspects. The bhakti yoga, the devotional yoga, which has many aspects to that, but hearing, shravanam, is a very important aspect, which is hearing from teachers or hearing from reading, chanting, kirtanam, whether we sing mantras or we chant mantra on beads or in our mind. These are very powerful. The physical yoga I use. Meditation, that's the mantra meditation, or there's many different types of meditation. These are all very powerful. Eating healthily, healthy vegetarian diet has assisted me. Vegetarian towards vegan has assisted me a lot. Organic, connecting with nature. Becoming self-realized, it's knowledge, and we have an internal teacher, the guru within, the Chaita guru. So there's many teachers, there's many tools, There's many therapies, psychotherapy, the somatic healing, to really go to the root cause of what's going on, be with yourself. So enjoy the journey. Wake up, come out of your lethargy, come out of your apathy. You can make a difference, and the change begins with yourself. And you can change your karma. You have the power. You don't have to succumb. You can change your karma by chanting mantra. A very powerful mantra is known as the Maha Mantra. And it's the mantra that's popularized in the Bhagavad Gita, the Maha Mantra. And the Maha Mantra goes like this: Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is a very powerful mantra. It's like the personal manifestation of Om. Om is the impersonal aspect of reality. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama is the personal aspect of reality. And it's explained that from the personal comes the impersonal. From the human being comes the auric field. From the sun globe comes the sun rays. From Hare Krishna, Hare Ram comes Om. So behind the Om, behind the energy, is a personal form emanating that energy. It's the recommended mantra for this day and age. There is an avatar, one who descended, who is known as the Yuga avatar, and his name is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in West Bengal in 1486. So not so long ago, just 500 years ago, and he is known as the Yuga avatar because he descended in this Yuga, which is Kali Yuga. And we only came into Kali Yuga about 5,000 years ago. Actually, we came into Kali Yuga just after Bhagavad Gita was spoken. Bhagavad Gita was spoken at the end of the previous Yuga, which was known as Dwapar Yuga, and it was spoken to assist us in this age of Kali. And Sri Krishna expanded and came as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is known as the Yuga avatar, because in every Yuga, it's explained there's a different means to self-realization. There's a different tool to assist us to become self-realized. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came as the Yuga avatar to establish what's called the Yuga Dharma, or the process for self-realization in this age. And he said in this age, because life is very difficult in this age for the mass of people, and life is a very fast-paced life. Many people, they don't have times like in a previous age. The Yuga Dharma was to sit in meditation for long periods of time. Years and years and years, tens of years, hundreds of years. They said people could live to 1,000 years in Sattva Yuga. And you could meditate for 100 years or more to become self-realized. Well, obviously, that's not appropriate in this modern age because we don't even live for hundreds of years. So what to speak of meditate for hundreds of years? They would go to mountains, forests, etc. Well, more and more people are living in cities now. So again, it's not appropriate. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came with the Yuga Dharma, which was Harinam Sankirtan. That is the Yuga Dharma, Harinam Sankirtan. And that means congregational chanting of the holy names. Congregational, come together and chant. But even if we can't come together, we can chant individually, and that's also recommended to do both. Chant individually, chant together. And the individual chanting is by chanting this mantra as a form of meditation. And they say from these words, Hare Krishna Ram, all knowledge can reveal itself to one. One can become fully self-realized just by chanting this mantra, because the knowledge is already in our heart. It just needs to be awakened. And they said this mantra, it works as a cleansing process. And what it's doing, it's cleaning the dust off the mirror of our heart. Now, if you have a mirror and it has a lot of dust on, you don't get a proper reflection of yourself. But when you clean the dust off the mirror, then you see yourself exactly as you are. So the heart is like that. The heart is pure. But through contact with this material nature and this material energy, the heart has been covered like a mirror gets covered with dust. It's been covered with the material energy, which means we don't get a pure reflection. It means we can become into a bewildered state of life. And we don't know what to do, what we're meant to do, what we're not meant to do, what the goal of life is, if there is a goal of life. So much bewilderment. And we're being fed so much propaganda, which confuses individuals even more or completely brainwashes them. We eat cancerous food, which makes us sick and numbs our brain. So all this is against us. But just by chanting this mantra, everything can be cleared. The dust of the material energy of the heart can be cleared away, and we can see reality for what it is just by chanting this mantra. I don't have any beads with me here, but it's recommended you can chant on beads. A mala of 108 beads, and you can chant the mantra on each bead. And you would chant like this. On one bead you would chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then you move to the second bead. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And in that way you work your way around the 108 beads. But if you don't have any beads, that's okay as well. You can just sit there in a nice meditative posture with a nice straight spine, and you can just repeat the mantra. It's called jap. Jap mantra. Jap means to chant softly. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And in this way we engage in what's called mantra meditation. We chant the mantra and we listen to the sound vibration, and we even engage our mind in chanting the mantra simultaneously so the mind doesn't drift off into other thoughts. However, if or when you notice the mind drifting off in other thoughts, you gently bring it back to the sound vibration of the mantra, and this has a cleansing effect. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. It cleanses the heart. It's very powerful. It cleanses the mind. It's a very powerful process. And there's many other meditations available as well, and many other practices. So initially just find what works for you. Do something that's going to assist you on this path of self-realization, which is considered the goal of human life, is to become self-realized and enter onto this journey of self-discovery. Thank you very much for your patience and your attention. Namaste.